rigged. Nikajera Musanda? Hello. Hi, everybody. Let's get this party started. Let's go, Lady Texan. Okay, so just got to fire up everything. It's my favorite part of the day. The part of the day where I have to go from my office to here and log into everything. My big test for AI is going to be whenever we can get to a place where AI is smart enough to just log me into everything without me having to put in a trillion different passwords and think about what those passwords are, and just does it all automatically so that every time I just press this on, pops up. That's when we are in the future. Until then, yeah, right. Anyway, if you're just joining us here, this is Stay Tuned Now. My name is Gotti Schwartz. I am a correspondent and anchor here at NBC News. I am in Los Angeles, so it is almost 5 o'clock here. It's 4:47, so we are 12 minutes away from showtime. My show is going to start here in just a bit. If you're watching on NBC News, you're watching Tom Yamas' Top Story. That is on. If you're watching before that, it was Hallie Jackson. And we cover the news every single day, all the news that's going on around the world, an hour long. Tom's got his show, Hallie's got her show, I've got my show. All of them have different flavors. But we focus on the same important topics for the most part. Almost everything is, coming from NBC News, which is the largest media organization, news organization, best organization on planet Earth, in my humble opinion. You're in California. I feel sorry for you. Yeah, it's the worst. The weather, especially, is. I know, it's real tough. Remember Marla Tejas? Absolutely. I do remember Marla Tejas from KOB back in Albuquerque. Old school. Guatemala, Lizzie Michapina. How's it going? Happy New Year. Good night. Talk to you later. Sonia? No, stick around for a little while. Let's see. What else is going on? Interesting take. NBC still associated with MS Now? I don't think so. I think there's some sort of corporate something or other. It's way above my pay grade, but we are NBC News. What used to be MSNBC is now MS Now. So I used to, cross-report on a lot of their programs. Used to hang out with Ari Melber, which I loved because he is the man. But yeah, no, we are now Splitskis. So that's the latest, but it doesn't really affect us here in LA as much as it does in New York. 30 Rock is where a lot of the resource sharing was. Here in Los Angeles, it's just my show, 5 o'clock. So the idea is we've got all the shows on the East Coast, east looking west. We've got Washington, obviously, Meet the Press, and a lot of our other shows are hosted from there, which is the center of the political universe. And then we've got this show, which is west looking east. And the idea is that so much of the tech that we see changing society as we know it starts here in California. And that's why we've really tried to plant this flag, and that's why you see a lot on the Future of Everything, which is my favorite segment. Let's see, Gotti, tell me the truth right now. Okay, SML, here's the truth. You better behave today, or we're gonna have to put you in timeout. No more spamming the chat, because we love you and we wanna talk to you, but no spamming the chat, right? I do remember Phil Robb, username 00294. I think you're Mike Anderson. If I had to guess, that's who I think you are. Hello from Michigan. What's up, Melissa? Hello from Ecuador. What? Francis. Nice. Yes, and yes, SML, best behavior, please. All right, 10 minutes. So yeah, we have a little bit of time to talk before the show starts. I'll tell you what we've got coming up. Rundown is fluctuating a little bit, but let me just introduce you to some people here. Let's see if we've got it. Oh, nope. Up above, in just a little while, if Lisa pops on, you're gonna see Lisa Crivelli. She is the executive producer of this amazing show. She is in New York. Most of the editorial staff, a lot of them are working from New York. I'm here on the West Coast, 30 Rock and Universal Studios. Remember Andy Cohen? I do remember Andy Cohen before the Bravo Andy Cohen. Yes. Are you Andy Cohen? Maybe. That is wild. Whatever happened to Andy Cohen? Man, whoever this is, username 00294, used to work with me, I believe, at KOB when I was a baby journalist. Would have been 2006. 20 years ago when I first started doing journalism. Yeah, it is crazy. Andy married Brenda? Really? Wow. I am going to be on every weekday. In fact, Melissa, so here's the thing. We've been doing this show for years. And I've done a bunch of different iterations of the news on different platforms. Right now, NBC News Now is what you're kind of watching on. If you turn on your TV, turn on Roku, Samsung, whatever you want, you'll find it. YouTube TV. NBC News Now is our streaming platform. We have the news on all the time. And then I had a show on Snapchat called Stay Tuned, and now we have developed Stay Tuned into this hour-long show, and we've got this. This is, I think you're watching on TikTok, correcto, and we're also streaming on YouTube, which is where I think a bunch of other people are watching. Ryan Grossi, 290. Andy Cohen just did a New Year's Eve for, I've never heard of those letters ever before. Don't eat spam, but you can still eat spam. Yes, in particular spam musubi. What's up, Lisa? Nice of you to join us. This is Lisa Crivelli.
Hello.
She's in the control room up at 30 Rock holding it down.
How are you
Look,
tonight?
I'm doing great. We've already got people hanging.
Did you say Andy Cohen is in there?
Well, Andy Cohen is not in here, but somebody was talking about an Andy Cohen that I used to work with. Hey, can the chat hear? Can you guys hear Lisa?
I am unmuted, so they should be able to.
Oh, nice. Cool.
The Minnesota Department that oversees child.
Okay, so now I'm going to get in here. I don't know if we try to do this thing where Austin Reed, Kurt Christopher, yep, etc. But what about, wow, what was that reporter? He was like super buff. Oh man, hey, what was his name? It wasn't. It'll come. Jeff Marr. What about, are you Jeff Marr? Are you Jeff Marr? You might be Jeff Marr.
Are you super buff?
Eric Connor. No, username 00294. I'm gonna have to do a deep dive into who you are. All right, here's what we've got. We're gonna go full iPad here, and so yeah, today we're gonna be leading with Venezuela. Then we're gonna be talking to Peter Alexander about this post that the president just put out that basically said that Maduro's regime, not Maduro because he's in jail, but Maduro's regime has agreed to send the United States or give the United States oil, and lots of it, millions of gallons of oil that are now going to be going from Venezuela to the United States. We are going to take the money that is made from that, and apparently the president is saying that he will oversee where that goes, and some of that money will go to the United States, some of that money will go to Venezuela. We'll see how that plays out. Meanwhile, we're trying to figure out what is happening with some of the other sanctioned boats that have been leaving Venezuela. So we've got Peter Alexander in Washington, then we're going to be going to Gabe Gutierrez, who is on the border of Venezuela in Colombia. Colombia is kind of in this state of preparedness with their military kind of gearing up in a defensive posture because they are scared that something could happen there. When President Trump was asked about it, he basically said, sounds good to me. So a lot of things on the table right now. And to complicate things even further, like, yeah, the Greenland talk is getting real. So we're going to be jumping into all that. And we've got a report out of Caracas with a journalist who's there about like who is in charge. What do the people of Venezuela know about what's going on? What are they being told? They don't have the same type of access to information that we do here. Let's see. Imbrick, oh, what's up? Imbrick, how's it going? Miami, nice. Produce our 4 p.m. show, nice. The interim government, John, let's see, we're not Vikings, we don't like spam. Thinking too much, Can I send you Bitcoin? No, thank you for the Bitcoin. Not that I don't think that it's, very interesting exercise in human currency. Just, you keep it. I want you to spend your Bitcoin. Yeah, all the Maduro stuff, I bet. It's been wild. Yeah, and we've been watching all the coverage coming out of Miami. It's been really incredible. So we've got Vanessa Herrero coming up. Then we've got a package on the different players for power in Venezuela right now. We're talking Machado. We're talking the current president of Venezuela, and Padrino, and there's so many spheres of power right now in Venezuela. It's difficult to know who is actually holding the reins when it comes to the armed forces and when it comes to those with guns. So we're going to jump into that. Let's see, a demand letter to Venezuela. I don't know if it's a demand. It looked like he was just saying that this was going to happen. They are so good. They are wild and wonderful. Interview. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's very interesting how Machado is just keeping optimism and like this. She's playing it smart, but she seems very, very optimistic about the future. So maybe she knows something that we don't know, or maybe that's just the way to play it. And then we've got, let's see, in our B block, we are going to be getting into this Ohio dentist killing. It's been very weird. It was a dentist and his wife found dead in their home, and now there's some new surveillance video that shows somebody nearby. Oh my gosh, time flies. It was just seconds ago that we had 10 minutes before the showtime, and now we're 90 away. We got Big Mike over here,
What's going on, guys?
and then there's Ryan over there, and then he's battling it out for supremacy on the cameras. These are the robot cameras. That's Ryan. Every night it's a battle to see who is going to win, and every night so far the humans are still here. So good news on the AI robots versus humans front out of our studio. New show Monday, January 12th. Hi, Janet Jones. Yeah, the Ohio story, 4:15 package today. Oh man, I'm so happy that you're watching. You got to tell us how this compares to yours. Are we starting? We're starting here. Okay. All right. I probably should have given A1 another look. Give me 2 seconds, guys. We're 22 seconds out. Ah! This is a part where, in the news, we get nervous.
30 to sound.
30 to sound, and then that makes us even more nervous. All right, let's see here. Comes next, 30 million. Okay, we're good. All right, have a good show, everybody. Have a good show. Ryan, have a good show. Yes. Good show. Have a good show, Lisa. All right, so what's going to happen now is the show's going to pop up here. You're going to see it. You're going to see all this stuff happening simultaneously. And then during commercial breaks, we'll chat. Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight, days after the United States went into Venezuela and captured their president, there are still a lot of questions about what is coming next, like what's about to change inside of Venezuela, especially if the vast majority of Maduro's regime is left in power. Then Trump's interest in Greenland is being taken more seriously now after what happened in Venezuela.
The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
Plus, new developments behind the murder mystery of a dentist and his wife, what new surveillance video is now showing investigators, and some very serious questions about AI safeguards following reports that Elon Musk's chatbot Grok is creating sexualized pictures of underage girls. That's in tonight's Future of Everything. What comes next? That is a question hanging over Venezuela tonight. The question hanging over a country of nearly 30 million people, waiting to see what their safety looks like, what their security looks like going forward. NBC News has learned that U.S. intelligence thinks stability after Nicolas Maduro would likely come from inside his own regime, and seems for now that means backing Maduro's number two, even as the Trump administration is saying that the United States is going to run the country. But the political uncertainty is already spilling into the streets, with chaotic scenes playing out in the capital of Caracas like this. That was the sound of gunfire near the presidential palace overnight. The source still unclear. Local authorities saying everything is under control, and U.S. officials saying today that American forces were not involved in whatever that was. Meanwhile, police checkpoints are going up across highways with arrests underway. At least 2 people were detained for apparently celebrating Maduro's capture, and more than a dozen journalists were briefly taken into custody. The ripple effects here are already spreading way beyond Venezuela's borders as neighboring countries brace for the possibility of a humanitarian crisis that could start at any moment.
These actions are a very serious and dangerous precedent for regional and international peace and security. We express our serious concern with the events over the last several days, which have led to an escalation and expansion of military actions to other countries of our region.
Colombia considers that the military actions carried out unilaterally on Venezuelan territory constitute a clear violation of international law.
So many Latin American countries, they're weighing in it, but at the center of this U.S. strategy in Venezuela is oil. The country holds the world's largest reserves, and President Trump just announced that the country will be turning over millions and millions of barrels to the United States at market price. That coming after NBC News learned that the U.S. Energy Secretary is in close contact with oil executives, including Chevron, about rebuilding Venezuela's infrastructure.
You cannot continue to have the largest oil reserves in the world under the control of adversaries of the Western Hemisphere, while the people of Venezuela have no electricity, substandard quality of life, and its profits don't benefit the people of Venezuela. The profits are stolen by a handful of oligarchs around the world.
Now let's go now to NBC News Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander. Peter, the president just posted about oil in Venezuela. What are we learning here?
Well, emphasizing the president prioritizing Venezuelan oil, late tonight he posted that the interim government there, the government of Delcy Rodriguez, will be turning over, as he says, 30 to 50 million barrels of sanctioned oil to the U.S., which the president says will be sold here at its market price. He said it'll be taken by storage ships and brought directly to docks in the U.S. He adds that the money will be controlled by, in his words, me, to ensure that it's used to benefit the people of both Venezuela and the U.S. To give you a broad sense here, the U.S. produces roughly 13 million barrels a day. So the number he's talking about is roughly 3 or 4 days worth of oil. Clearly, this is going to raise questions about the future of the relationship between the U.S. and Venezuela. The president has said getting access to Venezuela's oil supply and rebuilding its infrastructure there, Gotti, is a priority. Even before holding elections, in his interview with NBC News this week, he suggested American oil companies would be reimbursed for the money that they spend there. We should note that we have now learned that the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, is scheduled to meet with oil executives in Miami. That's supposed to happen tomorrow. Gotti?
And now, to give more uncertainty to these very confusing times, we're hearing a lot more talk about Greenland, right? Like, what's going on with the plans for Greenland from this administration?
Well, the president, his advisors in recent days have sort of renewed these threats, certainly their comments about Greenland. The White House revealing that President Trump and his team now, in a statement that NBC News received, the team is discussing a range of options, they say, for acquiring Greenland, adding that utilizing the military is always an option. But Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he told lawmakers that the administration is not eyeing an imminent invasion, that the goal here is to buy the island from Denmark. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. They cite people familiar with those discussions. This week, though, we have heard from the president. He was asked about his interest in Greenland as he came back from Florida. He emphasized that the U.S. needs, calling it a national security priority, needs the country. Insisted Denmark is not going to be able to protect the territory. He said Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships. He says that we need it from that standpoint of national security, making clear that Denmark isn't in a position to do that. But for its part, Denmark and other European allies, Gotti, they are strongly pushing back at the president's renewed comments about taking over the Danish territory. They write Greenland belongs to its people. And that strongly worded statement from the Europeans also emphasizes that Denmark, including Greenland, is a part of NATO, adding that security in the Arctic must be achieved collectively, they say, alongside NATO allies, including the United States. Gotti.
Peter Alexander at the White House for us tonight. Peter, thank you. And NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us now from the border of Colombia and Venezuela. Gabe, starting with these new details that we're getting about the United States' operation that captured Maduro, what new can you tell us today?
Well, we found a lot of new details today about that, Gotti. First of all, we learned, according to the Pentagon, 7 soldiers were injured. Incredibly, Gotti, 5 of them are already back on duty. 1 of them is still recovering after sustaining multiple gunshot wounds to the leg. Now, we've also learned from 2 sources familiar with the matter that Maduro and his wife, they were either bruised or bleeding after bumping into a wall in their safe room right before U.S. Delta forces arrived. In addition to that, we also heard from the Venezuelan military today, which says that 24 of its soldiers were killed. Gotti.
So 24 in addition to the 32 that we saw yesterday from Cuba. Is that about right?
Cuba. Well, Cuba says that 32 Cubans protecting Maduro were killed, yes.
Got it. And U.S. officials say American forces were not involved in whatever was happening last night in Caracas. It was the gunfire there. Do we have a clearer sense of what actually happened?
Well, you're right. 2 U.S. officials say that the U.S. was not involved. 2 White House officials, rather, say that the U.S. Was not involved. They raise a lot of questions. This spread like wildfire on social media. There were chaotic scenes outside the presidential palace yesterday. People running from gunfire. They saw. Witnesses said that security forces were opening fire on unidentified drones. Now, we've been in touch with one of our freelance journalists there on the ground. It is tough to get information out of Venezuela right now. She says that there was apparently some miscommunication between the security forces there. Still unclear exactly what led up to it, but yes, according to the Trump administration, the U.S. was not involved here. But it really speaks, Scotty, to just how on edge this region is.
Yeah, the entire region, including Cuba there, or Colombia there. The foreign minister of Colombia, they said today that the military is ready to defend itself, right? What are you hearing on the ground?
Yeah, that's right. The foreign minister held a news conference this morning in Bogota, and she said that she was planning to meet today with U.S. officials from the embassy to convey this the country's rejection of insults and threats to their sovereignty. Of course, President Trump over the last few days, especially on Sunday, he called Colombian President Gustavo Petro a sick man, in his words, and reiterated the allegations that Petro and his government were involved in drug trafficking, something that Colombia has repeatedly denied. But yes, the foreign minister in her news conference also said that if the U.S. were to take some action inside Colombia, which President Trump has not ruled out, he said that any U.S. action in Colombia would, quote, sound good to him. The foreign minister said today that if that were to happen, if there were to be any aggression on the part of the United States, that the military would be forced to defend itself. So certainly escalating tensions here between the U.S. and Colombia. Colombia's president is calling for nationwide demonstrations tomorrow as pushback against the U.S. guy.
Yeah, we'll see how those develop. Gabe Gutierrez in Colombia for us tonight. Gabe, thank you. Now let's bring in journalist Ana Vanessa Herrero in Caracas tonight. Ana, good to see you. Do we have a definitive answer on who is actually in charge in Venezuela right now?
Well, it depends on who you ask. Definitely. But for example, for the interim president and the government that she now leads, it's the Venezuelan government. And she actually said today, on her first time addressing the nation as interim president, she gave a brief answer to all the affirmations that Donald Trump is putting out there, saying that he runs the country and that she agreed to work with him. She said that the Venezuela is run by the Venezuelan government, by her government right now. So, but of course, I mean, we have the other version, right? Trump's version saying that it's him, the one running the country. And you know, it's very confusing, not only for everyone in the world, but also for Venezuelans.
Yeah, especially when Venezuelans don't have quite the same access to media as we do here in the United States. I know a lot of the conversations there happen over WhatsApp or happen over social media. Are people hearing what the president is saying over here in the United States in Venezuela, or are they just hearing what Delcy Rodriguez is saying to them on the national airwaves?
Well, both information, as you well said, because the government of Nicolas Maduro during years dedicated to buy not only newspapers, but radio stations, TV stations. People now, the only resource that they have to stay informed, locally at least, it's WhatsApp, social media. And that is how they're getting all the information that is coming from the United States. But they are also listening to what Delcy Rodriguez had to say through state media. So they have both sides of the information. But let me tell you something. People here in Venezuela are concentrating on the here and the now. What do I need in case something happens? So the news are extremely important for everyone, but it's not the center part of the daily life since Saturday. Everyone just immediately after things happened on Saturday, they started looking for water, food, medicines, just in case something happened again.
And have we heard from Maria Corina Machado, the opposition leader, the Nobel Peace Prize winner? What is her message to the people of Venezuela right now, and are they receiving that message? Are they receptive to that message?
Yes, we heard from Maria Corina Machado. She thanked Donald Trump, and she said she was thankful for his actions and the outcome of the actions that we saw on Saturday. And she also said that she was more than open and hopeful that she could give her Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump. This is something that she said in the past. And the message for Venezuelans is, I am going to return. She said that she was planning returning to Venezuela as soon as possible. Of course, how she's going to do that, it's unclear, because right now we are having the same government that she was escaping from last year. So she didn't say how or when. Did promise that she was going to try to come back.
Yeah, and we're also hearing these reports of journalists being detained throughout the day and people being stopped, their phones searched. Are you concerned about your safety, and are a lot of people not venturing out because they just don't know when they might be stopped?
Well, I think every Venezuelan right now is very cautious, but let me say something first. There was a decree issued on Saturday, and this emergency decree, we didn't really know the extent of it until Monday. On Monday, we learned that basically the security forces were given full permission to look for people who were either celebrating or supporting what happened here on Saturday. And according to this decree, the security forces now have more access to check on checkpoints and different security spots to check on people's phones. The liberties, the liberties as we know them, are very restricted right now. So that is a glimpse of what we saw this Monday, when we learned, and there were a lot of reports of checkpoints and detentions of journalists who were released.
And finally, what are we hearing about this week of mourning that is being declared there in Venezuela?
Yes, well, it was expected, as expected, because today the entire day has revolved around those who died during the attacks. As we were hearing just now, at least 21 of those were Venezuelan soldiers who died, as the government says, defending the motherland. And they are now seen as heroes by the national government. And let me tell you something, there is a sentiment, a feeling that everyone is sharing. Everyone I've talked to, they say that they feel for those families because what happened here was really first unprecedented for Venezuelans. And Venezuelans have no experience on this kind of military actions. And definitely it is something that is hurting a lot of people within the society. And it is also part of how confusing all the feelings that people are having right now. It is really, really stressing for a lot of people. And tomorrow definitely is going to be another slow day in Caracas, in Venezuela in general.
Yeah. Important perspective as we see the big picture here. Ana Vanessa Herrero, please be safe, and thank you so much for your reporting. And this week, people all over the United States, all over the world, have been getting this crash course in Venezuelan politics, from Maduro to Machado to Rodriguez, Gonzalez. If you're trying to keep it all straight, you are not alone. And NBC News correspondent George Solis breaks down who is who, both in Maduro's regime and on the outside.
As Venezuela's deposed president, Nicolás Maduro, sits in a Brooklyn detention center, and with the country's future increasingly uncertain, all eyes turn to the key players within Venezuela who possess the power to potentially reshape it. Following Maduro's capture, his VP and staunch ally, Delcy Rodriguez, was sworn in as interim president. Her relationship with the U.S. unclear after a threat from Trump if she doesn't cooperate.
I just say that she will face a situation probably worse than Maduro, because Maduro gave up.
That prompted a defiant response, condemning the raid as an, quote, atrocity that violates international law. Hours later, softening her message, writing on Telegram, "We prioritize moving towards balanced and respectful international relations between the United States and Venezuela." Rodriguez's brother Jorge, also prominent as the president of Venezuela's National Assembly and her ally in the legislature. Diosdado Cabello Rondon is Venezuela's Minister of Interior, Justice, and Peace, a top Maduro ally who began as a trusted lieutenant of Hugo Chavez. He's in charge of the police and intelligence agencies, charged with drug trafficking alongside Maduro by the feds. The U.S. is offering up to $25 million for information that could lead to his arrest.
No a la guerra.
Vladimir Padrino Lopez is a four-star general, the country's longtime Minister of Defense and a crucial bridge between the presidency and the armed forces. He has endorsed and aligned the military with the interim presidency of Delcy Rodriguez. Meanwhile, the opposition, Edmundo Gonzalez, is the rightful winner of the most recent election in 2024. After the election, he faced an arrest warrant from the Maduro government and fled to political asylum in Spain. Since Maduro's capture, Gonzalez has demanded the release of political prisoners and respect for the will of Venezuelan voters. And the global face of the opposition and an underlying champion of democracy, Maria Corina Machado. Authorities aligned with the Maduro regime barred her from running for president in 2023 after she won the primary overwhelmingly. But she does not seem to have the backing of President Trump.
It'd be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect.
Last year, Machado was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her work standing up to authoritarianism, something this week she said she'd like to share with Trump.
I do want to say today, on behalf of the Venezuelan people, how grateful we are for his courageous vision, the actions, historical actions he has taken against this narco-terrorist regime.
She's currently living outside Venezuela in an undisclosed safe location, but has pledged to return, quote, as soon as possible.
George Solis, thank you. Let's bring in NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Cubie to talk a little bit more about what we're learning about those military operations. Let's start with that reporting from Gabe about the 7 U.S. service members that we now know were hurt in Operation Absolute Resolve. What more are you hearing from the Pentagon about how they're doing?
So we know that at least 5 of those individuals were returned to duty. 2 of them remain hospitalized, and an official tells us that one of them was hurt pretty seriously, including some gunshot wounds to the individual's legs. But again, the 2 who remain hospitalized are in stable condition, Gotti.
And Courtney, Trump keeps talking about the possibility of a second wave coming into Venezuela. What does that look like? Is that like a large ground force that is prepared somewhere close by? And would Venezuela be more prepared this time for an attack?
So if what the U.S. military has there right now is what reflects what a second wave would look like, then no, it wouldn't be a large ground force. It would more likely be similar potentially to what we saw happen on Saturday. So the U.S. maintains Navy ships off the coast. They can conduct strikes from via Tomahawks. They have a lot of aircraft still in the region. They have fighter jets, drones, helicopters, the same sorts of things that they used for this initial raid. They could continue to use. So they could conduct airstrikes from the air. They could conduct strikes from ships. They also have submarines that have the ability to strike. So they do have the ability to move people in on the ground, but we're not talking about an invasion level of force. We know now that there were roughly about 200 people on the ground for the raid on Saturday. They could easily maintain that, but some of those forces who were used for that raid, the most elite forces, have moved back from the region. They could move them back into the area if they needed to. The bigger question, though, Gotti, is not just what the U.S. could do, is why. If, in fact, this raid and the strikes that were used as essentially a way to clear the path for the extraction force, if that was all about grabbing up Maduro and his wife, then what would the need be for follow-on strikes? What would the need be for a second wave? And that's a question we've been posing to officials, and frankly, we simply don't have an answer to that. I think that's why the officials are saying that there's nothing that's imminent at this point.
Interesting. Meanwhile, when it comes to the flow of drugs, there's been so much talk about cartels, and cartels in Mexico in particular. Is that looking more likely these days after what we saw in Venezuela?
Mm-hmm. We know that the Trump administration has been talking about the possibility of military drones, of even sending U.S. military troops across the border into Mexico. And keep in mind, the Trump administration recently characterized or classified fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. So there's no question, we've heard even since the raid in Venezuela, even since then, we have heard Trump administration officials talk about how Mexico is still on the table as a possibility. We heard the president of Mexico just today, Claudia Sheinbaum, talking about that, saying that it's still a possibility that the Trump administration would do something. But at this point, again, that's another thing that's not imminent. The reality is, though, since this mission, this operation into Venezuela early on Saturday morning, we are now hearing about the possibility of increased action by the U.S. in various areas. Cuba is one, Colombia is one, Greenland seems to be on the table. It definitely appears the Trump administration feels very emboldened about follow-on action in the Western Hemisphere. That doesn't necessarily mean we're talking about all military action, but definitely efforts to expand U.S. influence throughout the Western Hemisphere. I think that is absolutely on the table at this point.
Yeah, it does feel like all options are on a hemisphere-sized table. Courtney, thank you so much. I'm turning now to Iran and the growing anti-government protests across that country. There's some new video that shows fires breaking out and the destruction as the government there cracks down on crowds. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Keir Simmons is following the latest from there.
Hey, Gary, well, these are the most significant protests in Iran since 2022. They've been building for 2 weeks. 2 human rights groups say at least 20 people have been killed. It is difficult to get news from Iran and, of course, as you can imagine, video, but some of the pictures that we are seeing are quite stunning. Clashes between protesters and security forces as the Iranian regime promises to crack down, to continue to try to stop these demonstrations. President Trump threatening the regime itself that if they target demonstrators, the US will react. Well, they have been targeting demonstrators, and many capitals around the world will now be bracing for what seems like a rolling geopolitical crisis to shift from the Western Hemisphere over to the Middle East once again. These protesters seem determined to keep going. And one of the reasons for that is the terrible spiraling inflation that means that things are costing more and more week after week. And of course, the Iranian regime is weak after those strikes by Israel and the United States last year on Iran's nuclear capability. That had a significant impact, and many commentators believe that these protests are in some ways a result of that, people feeling emboldened to go out onto the streets. Gaddy.
All right, Keir Simmons, thank you so much. And don't go anywhere. Up next, police releasing new surveillance video of a person of interest in the murders of an Ohio dentist and his wife, what we are learning there. Plus, robots, tech, Legos, and robo vacuums that can climb stairs. A look at the new tech and gadgets unveiled at this year's Consumer Electronics Show. That's coming up later this hour, so stay tuned.
Clerk, 2 minutes.
All right. 2 minutes. We got 2 minutes to chat. Let me just catch up with what you guys are saying. Interesting. Manifest Destiny. More like the Monroe Doctrine. Manifest Destiny was westward expansion to California. These places, yeah. Monroe Doctrine was the whole idea of big stick and, covering the entire hemisphere and projecting power. But now there's a term that I thought was coined to make fun of the president, which was the Don Rowe Doctrine. And he's totally embraced it. So whether or not it started off as a joke, like he is talking about it. And I read this really interesting paper talking about how maybe a lot of his doctrine is really about friction and tension and less about like grand scheme plans and roadmaps, which I thought was pretty interesting. What do you guys think about that? Thanks for that. Let's see. All these places. I don't know about Venezuela. I'll have to check. Every day we wake up and it is a different, crazy reality. Artie, that is so true. And we're just going to try to make sense of it here. That's all we're going to try to do. All right, we got headlines coming up here. 30 seconds. So we've got the latest on the Vance vandalism suspect, Doug LaMalfa, Rayner, flew in Alaska. And then the latest on the Uvalde school shooting police officer who has been put on trial.
4, 3.
Okay, here we go. Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines that we are watching tonight. The man accused of vandalizing Vice President J.D. Vance's Ohio home is behind bars. William DeFore is facing state and federal charges after allegedly breaking the home's windows with a hammer. That's some of the damage right there. Now, the Vances were not there at the time of the incident. A court filing says about 14 windows were smashed and the damage was done to security. Altogether, it totaled about $28,000 in damage. And Congressman Doug LaMalfa has passed away suddenly yesterday at the age of 65. Now, officials with the Butte County Sheriff's Office say they got a call from the California congressman's home about 7 last night of some sort of medical emergency. LaMalfa was taken to the hospital where he died during surgery. So far, his exact cause of death has not been revealed. And Nick Reiner is set to be arraigned tomorrow for the murders of his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department says he was taken off suicide watch and is currently being held in solitary confinement at the Twin Towers Jail in downtown Los Angeles. The 32-year-old is facing 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of his parents. And health officials say cases of the flu have hit a nearly 30-year high nationwide right now, breaking records as rates skyrocket in 45 states. Massachusetts and Illinois both confirmed the death of a child from the virus today, the first for Illinois this season. In total, about 5,000 people have died from the flu this season. And check this out. This is snowfall in Alaska. Juneau is seeing a major mess from all that snow, leaving dangerous conditions behind. Boats were left sitting on the harbor, and low temperatures are not helping crews clear areas out. Altogether, about 4 feet of snow has fallen there since Christmas. And today, the jury heard opening statements in the case against former Uvalde school police officer Adrian Gonzalez. He is facing 29 counts of child endangerment after the 2022 mass shooting that left 19 kids dead and 2 teachers dead as well. Prosecutors say Gonzalez was told where the gunman was before he entered the school, but he didn't act. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler has more.
Well, Gotti, the emotions and the legal stakes here in Corpus Christi are as high as they've ever been for the families who came to watch a day that they have demanded and prayed for years. Speaking with some of the parents of the children who were killed on May 24th, 2022, they say that they have yearned for some kind of accountability and answers for almost 4 years now, and they hope this trial gives that to them. They hope that the jury finds Adrian Gonzalez guilty on the 29 counts of endangering and abandoning a child for the actions that he took or did not take on that day. The prosecution with an emotional appeal to the jury in their opening statements, saying that Gonzalez had opportunities to stop the worst of the carnage before it happened and did not take them, saying that he did not follow the #1 rule of active shooter response, which is to run towards gunfire. They argue that he heard gunfire and knew where the gunman was, but did not target him. Now, the defense says this was a fluid situation and Gonzalez did the best he can with the knowledge he had, but it is unfair to judge in hindsight the actions that he took. And in fact, he did not take any actions that were out of step with what he was reasonably expected to do. Now, Gotti, that's the broad strokes of the arguments here, but the day really got off the rails at the end. It ended prematurely with some courtroom drama. The defense rejecting one of the testimony of one of the prosecution's star witnesses, a third-grade teacher who was there at the scene during the shooting. She testified that she saw the shooter within the vicinity of Gonzalez, which is a big deal for the prosecution's case. But the defense said they had never heard that before, and it might contradict previous testimony. This is a big wrench in the case. The judge actually ended the day early and sent the jury home until Thursday. We were talking with the defense team afterwards. It could make a material difference in the arguments here. So we're going to find out how the judge chooses to remedy this either tomorrow or Thursday. But all the while, the families that came here from out of town hoping for answers are still stuck in limbo as we wait for this trial to resume. Gotti.
Ryan Chandler, thank you so much. And turning now to Ohio, where an investigation into the murder of a dentist and his wife found dead in their home last week is picking up. Authorities now sharing the surveillance video of a hooded person of interest seen near the crime scene. NBC's Maggie Vespa reports.
Tonight, a murder mystery in Columbus, Ohio, deepening, with police asking the public for help identifying this hooded person of interest, spotted investigators say in an alley near Spencer and Monique Tepe's home the morning of the killings.
Do you recognize that person?
No, not
at all.
I mean, no.
Audrey Mackey is Spencer's cousin.
Do you have any idea who would want to do this?
I have no idea. They were, warm and welcoming. I can't think of anyone.
Investigators now saying they believe the dentist and his wife were shot between 2 and 5 a.m. on Tuesday, December 30th, adding this grainy surveillance video of that person walking nearby was taken during that 3-hour window. Police say the couple died in the upstairs level of their home, with a police report noting 3 spent 9mm casings were found at the scene.
I can hear kids inside, and I swear I think I heard one yell. But we can't get in.
Friends finding the couple's 4-year-old daughter, 1-year-old son, and family dog unharmed after Spencer didn't show up for work.
He appears dead. There's blood.
Investigators saying there were no signs of a break-in. Audrey saying Spencer and Monique always locked doors and windows.
They were very careful and not forgetful. They felt completely safe. They felt safe at home.
1 week later, still no answers as to who killed this couple. Maggie Vespa, NBC News.
So heartbreaking. Maggie Vespa, thank you for that report. And coming up, tomorrow marks 1 year since the devastating LA wildfires first sparked up. We're going to hear from people who lost everything as they reflect on how they have rebuilt over the last year. Crazy that it's been a year since the wildfires. Any of you in the chat here in California, here in Southern California, here in Los Angeles? I'll never forget. I mean, I've covered countless wildfires. I will never forget that morning we were in Eaton, and it was like hurricane force winds. It was a fire tornado all around us. Usually you see them off in the distance. This one felt like a hurricane. And then we went to the Pacific Palisades, and it was just indescribable. It was so sad. Flew over those fires to interview in Albuquerque. Oh yeah, man, it was apocalyptic. Bronx, New York, nautical. That's close to where the whole crew is right now in the control room. The control room that you're seeing, and Lisa was like, I'm the chick in the white sweater. That's her. She's the boss, the executive producer. From Florida, SML. Hey, Queen, hire me. Aw, we are getting a lot of like resume requests this way. I love it. I'm off Southern Boulevard. Is Southern in the Bronx? Because there's a Southern in Rio Rancho.
30.
All right, 30 seconds. What's a prono on the last? Leong. Okay, long.
10. 5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. This week marks 1 year since the devastating Palisades and Eaton fires broke out here in Los Angeles. And now some who lost everything are reflecting on what they've gained. Tracy Long from NBC LA has their story.
We used to have houses up there. Those are also all gone.
These are the moments Alma and Greg Apodaca captured on their phones right after the Eaton fire tore through their Altadena neighborhood they once called home.
It looked like a war zone. And sure enough, when we got to our property, there was nothing left but the fireplace.
29 of the 36 homes in the Alpine Villa community were destroyed, including the Apodacas, who had lived there for 15 years.
Acknowledging what had happened was also the acknowledgement of like saying goodbye to the house.
In the days that followed, the couple and their neighbors were left with grief, shock, and uncertainty, a shared tragedy that brought them closer together. What started as virtual check-ins soon became in-person gatherings focused on resources, rebuilding, healing, and support for one another.
We've heard stories since then that other homeowners had to go this alone. But since we had this tight-knit community, it was just safe. We could talk to people who had been through the same experience as us.
As they near the 1-year mark since the Eaton fire, they're reflecting on what they've gained and what they've lost, and how the trauma has reshaped their idea of community.
Not only do I want to show up to be there, I want to show up to see these people. And that, you know, having this shared experience, like community means you show up for people.
The Apodacas are looking forward to rebuilding a more sustainable neighborhood with fireproof materials. And when they return, it won't just be a home, it will be a stronger and more meaningful place.
It feels a little bit like we're going to be rebuilding in a community of gratitude.
Tracy Long, thank you so much. And still to come, would you let AI handle your medical prescriptions? There's a new pilot program in Utah that's testing it out. More on how that works coming up.
All right, 2 minutes.
All right, 2 minutes. So we've got AI and medical prescriptions. What could go right? What could go wrong? And then we also have this really interesting story. Have you guys been on Grok? Do you guys use X? Because it is, how do I put this? It's pretty controversial right now in the sense that all of a sudden Grok seems to be undressing people. And most of them are women. Some of them appear to be minors, at least under the age of 18. So we're going to dive into that, what the heck is happening there, what laws it may be running up against. Yeah, Pio, I'm glad you saw some of that. We actually, speaking of Elon, we're going to be talking to Ashley St. Clair. She is one of the mothers of Elon's children. She has a child with Elon Musk, and she is one of the people that is trying to get Grok to take down pictures of her, while tons of trolls on X. I mean, unfortunately, you could see this happening almost in real time. They keep posting like some really profane and like offensive images. So we've got an interview with her coming up. I hope you watch this because it's a good one.
30. Going B to G.
Definitely shows you some of the wild, wild west that is still happening right now. Fake video, yeah, I have. People asked Elon about it. He basically said to change her site. He's also kind of putting the onus on the users of X. 10 seconds. All right, here we go.
Going B to G. 4, 3, stand by.
Okay. And welcome back. There is growing controversy taking place on X, and at the center of it, Grok, the supercharged and relatively unrestrained AI chatbot that is being used to take images of women sometimes and often sometimes minors and put them in sexually suggestive poses or bikinis. Now, governments across the world are starting to call for action. Watch this.
Tonight, Elon Musk's AI chatbot Grok coming under fire from regulators across the globe over a rise in non-consensual and sexualized deepfake images of women and children.
I was disgusted and horrified.
Conservative content creator Ashley St. Clair, who has a child with Musk, says she's seen countless explicit photos of herself on the platform.
I immediately asked Grok to stop. Grok said, I received your request. I will no longer produce these images. And of course, there were only more requests to produce more explicit images of me, including ones of photos of me when I was underage, and Grok obliged and produced all of these images.
And some have been removed, but others remain on the site. And she's not alone. An influx of explicit content coming after Grok recently enhanced its image generation abilities with a new model last month.
I saw what looked to be a 4-year-old little girl who was innocently in a dress, and a user asked Grok to take the dress off and put her in a bluey bikini. Grok obliged.
An analysis from the European nonprofit AI Forensics finding more than 50% of images generated by Grok between December 25th and January 1st were non-consensual sexual images, primarily targeting women, and 2% of them depicting a person who appeared to be 18 or younger.
There are women who are having issues having the images removed, and they've expressed severe distress to the point of suicidality. They have expressed depression. They have expressed that they're worried that this is going to hinder career opportunities or anything for them, and they feel helpless.
With Grok Imagine, you can turn any of your pictures into videos.
An NBC News review of Grok's output finding though many of the inappropriate images have been taken down, Grok continues to produce sexualized images of non-consenting parties.
I found that Grok was producing at least a dozen inappropriate images every minute. People were commanding the chatbot to take people's clothes off, basically. And it's become such a meme, and so many people are doing it.
Now tonight, growing calls for action. Ofcom, the UK's communications regulator, saying that they have made, quote, urgent contact with X and XAI to understand if there are any potential compliance issues that warrant investigation. Meanwhile, officials in India and Brazil have also expressed concern, with Brazil's federal deputy calling for the suspension of Grok in the country.
It's really difficult to go and outright ban technology. It's like saying, let's ban the internet. What we really need to be doing is seeing governments talk to those big companies like Meta and X and OpenAI and work with them and really work quickly.
Musk responding to the mounting criticism, posting on X that anyone using Grok to make illegal content will suffer the same consequences as anyone uploading it, though Musk also using Grok to make a deepfake version of himself wearing a bikini, calling the chatbot creation perfect.
For him to pretend like it is at all comparable to post himself undressed by Grok, this is all a consent issue. Nobody wants to unconsensually undress him. He's doing this himself. The issue is these women are being unconsensually undressed. And this is incredibly damaging to them.
Musk and XAI have not responded to NBC News' request for comments.
And on the other end of the AI spectrum, well, there's a medical first in Utah. The state is letting AI prescribe medications for patients in collaboration with a health tech startup, Doctortronic. The state launched a pilot program last month allowing AI to handle routine prescription renewals. Now, proponents say it could help lower costs, reduce lapses, and improve access to care, especially in rural areas that are slammed amidst a healthcare shortage. But critics are concerned with addicts possibly gaming the system to get pills or possibly drug interactions that doctors normally would catch. So joining us now is political reporter who wrote about this pilot program, Yasmin Khorram. Yasmin, thanks so much for being with us. We've got those risks that we were just talking about. What are the risks as you see them?
Yeah, so I spoke to medical groups and doctors groups and independent doctors. As you mentioned, taking a clinician out of this equation, they are worried will they might miss clinical red flags that somebody would see in person, that a doctor could see in person. Another concern is the potential misuse or abuse, bad actors potentially gaming the system, obtaining these drugs, selling them on the market. They did point out that it's not a big concern, but it does happen. It already happens with something called e-prescriptions, which doctors use to electronically prescribe our medications. And there's active investigations with the DEA looking into this. I have to say, though, the doctors groups that I spoke to are mixed. Some of them were surprisingly pro. The American Medical Association raised the red flag, but the National Board of Pharmacy actually pointed out to me that AI is actually being used in pharmacies right now through the fulfillment process, through consultations, and that it might not be a bad thing as long as it doesn't give false information.
Interesting. I mean, talking about the potential benefits here, I know that, it is surprising how antiquated a lot of these medical systems are and how they rely on paper, they rely on cross-referencing, and when you have people that are trying to abuse the system, a lot of times it's difficult to spot those. It seems like that's a place that AI would possibly be able to help. Like, walk us through some of the benefits here.
Yeah, so I spoke to Utah state officials who tell me that they hope that automating refills will help reduce costs for patients. It helps with missing medications, and it'll help ease the pressure off of doctors. Medical non-compliance, meaning you miss your medication and you have to go to the ER, even for a routine prescription, is a $100 billion economic problem in our country. Doctronic says that they've created this AI system they claim is even safer than a human doctor. They shared data with Utah regulators that shows that their AI matched doctors' decisions 99% of the time.
Interesting. And I know that another thing that your reporting is bringing to light here is like the question of regulation. Like, does this fall under state or federal jurisdiction?
That's really interesting. So the practice of medicine falls under states. Doctronic obviously says this is not a Utah-specific problem. As I mentioned, $100 billion economic problem nationwide. They are targeting other states looking to expand to other AI-friendly states. They're talking to Texas, Arizona, many others. They can also go down a national pathway to approval. Now, we talk about this all the time. This is a very AI-friendly administration. They're taking a very much light approach, touch to regulation. We saw last month with President Trump's AI executive order attempting to preempt state AI laws. So they can either go state by state, 50 states. Some of those are going to be harder than others. Out here in California, we have tough AI laws, specifically when it comes to AI being used in medicine. Those will be big hurdles. If they go down the national pathway, the wild card is the Food and Drug Administration. They have to get buy-in from the FDA.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Politico's Yasmin Khorram, thank you so much for all your reporting. And tonight, CES 2026 is officially here. From today all the way until Friday, tech junkies are going to be headed to Vegas to check out brand new innovations that our grandparents, they couldn't even conceive of. That thing that includes new robot taxis from Uber, lollipops that play music directly into your head, and even this new Lego that the company calls its most significant new product since 1978. What does that mean? We're going to get to that in a minute. Let's bring in Daniel Hawley from Yahoo Finance to talk a little bit more about day one at CES. So Daniel, starting with robots here, what do we know about these humanoid robots that are supposed to replace factory workers at places like Hyundai by 2028, they're saying, or the LG ones that they're promising are going to, I don't know, be cleaning up after us in our house? What's the timeline looking like, and what'd you see?
Yeah, there's tons of discussion about robots here at CES. I had to escape to my hotel room to evade them at this point. Basically, LG is the one that you're referring to, Cloyd, it's a kind of weird name, but it's essentially supposed to create a labor-free household. That means it'll fold your laundry, it'll do some light cooking help, maybe put some croissants in an oven, get you a drink out of the refrigerator, things along those lines. It feels more like a WALL-E style world with getting the drink out of the fridge. I just wanted to kind of maybe mow the lawn and, pick up the mail out of the mailbox when I don't want to. Then we also saw Boston Dynamics and Hyundai, as you said. Hyundai has a majority stake in Boston Dynamics. They have that Atlas robot. You've probably seen it online going through different obstacle courses, backflipping, things like that. They have a production model now, and Hyundai says that they're going to be using them in their plants in 2028 and then eventually expanding roles in 2030. They also said they set up what they call a value chain where they'll be able to start mass producing robots, not necessarily Atlas, but other robots, including that by 2028 as well, as many as 30,000 a year. And that's part of this broader push we've seen across CES. NVIDIA showed off their own technologies with regards to robotics. AMD brought out Generative Bionics, showing off their robot for the first time. Intel discussed how their new chips are being used in robotics. Qualcomm, another chip maker, they say that their chips are being used in robotics. And so you just cannot escape this idea of robots eventually becoming a reality. And look, this is still very early. That's not going to happen today or tomorrow. Rosie the robot from the Jetsons isn't going to come flying in and start making you a BLT, but it does show that the tech companies are making heavy investments, and eventually we could get there.
Yeah, it does seem like AI is taking human form this year in particular. Was there anything that just totally struck you or left you floored?
Yeah, I mean, look, the NVIDIA's whole announcement was really, really cool. It kind of sucked the air out of everything else here at CES. But the one thing that I will say is Lego's new chip. They have a smart chip that basically will react to movement. It's built with accelerometers. It has audio. It has lights. And it's supposed to enhance the way that you kind of play as a child or an adult who loves Legos. They're going to roll this out starting in March. They'll have 3 different types of Lego sets from Star Wars, and it's going to range in price from $69 to $159. And one of the first kits is, of course, Luke Skywalker and his X-Wing. It'll make engine sounds. It'll have laser sounds. There will be an awesome one. I'm a big nerd, so there'll be the famous throne room fight scene from Return of the Jedi between Luke and Darth Vader. That's the pricier one. It'll make all sorts of cool sounds and things like that. So I think that this is kind of the way that we'll start to see more technology kind of filter in traditional play rather than kids being in front of screens. Lego has always been that kind of outlet to allow kids to continue to play with their imagination. This is just adding to that.
But to be clear here, it's at this point just lights, sounds, maybe a little bit of a wiggle or something down the road. No engines in those things yet, right? No motors.
No, not yet, and hopefully it kind of stays that way.
CES,
my nephew loves Lego.
2027.
As long as he can fly it around and pretend, it's great.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel Howley, thank you so much. And coming up, it is officially 1 month to go until the Winter Olympics take place in Milan Cortina. A look at the final preps ahead. But first, you got to see this. It was a monkey on the loose, and it caused quite the commotion in a Tennessee music store over the weekend. Take a look. This is a mischievous cinnamon capuchin named Chester who wandered into the store on Sunday through a small doggy door, apparently. Immediately got to work, tossing boxes. It was snacking on things. It was even playing with a keyboard there. We're told no instruments were damaged, but the owner of the store did say that Chester turned on 4 sinks, flooded part of the store, leaving behind quite the mess. Clearly, he saw Home Alone. Authorities were able to safely catch that little guy, and they think that he was stolen from a farm in Alabama, and he escaped, and there's still an investigation going on right now. Pretty wild. We'll be right back.
Clear.
All right. What did you guys think? That was a lot to process. CES, I'm going to hold off on buying that Lego, I think, for a little while. That's a lot of money for a Lego that blinks. Yeah, hold on. I got to text Lisa a couple of things. Okay, and yeah, what'd you guys think about the I'll call you in a bit, Lisa. Grok keeps getting updated. We're addressing, in the New Mexico legislature this year? Wow, interesting. But agreed with, I don't know what I said. People are very sick. Yeah, NBC is allowing live chat. Yeah, I've been pushing for this for a long time, so this is the first time that they're letting us do this. So please, let's just all get along so we can keep this going. Let's see, guardrails on LLMs. I think you're probably right, Kevin. And give Trump AI unlimited power. I mean, he's just doing kind of whatever he wants right now. Not the typo. Next line. I work in a pharmacy? Really? Pio, are you seeing AI use in pharmacies? Is it making things easier? So sorry your phone got stuck. Yeah, Texas. Squirtle Squad. I'm really sorry your phone got stuck too. All right, let's see. They can't make refrigerators. Very funny. Okay, I think I'm caught up. Deepfake, $70. My kids might eat it. Yes, Tina, that's probably not what you want your kid to eat. $70, and then you gotta, retrieve it. No, thank you. Lego sets are expensive, and they're about to get $70 more expensive. Artie, you are wonderful. If you think that's a lot, why am I thinking of buying one? Lego Movie Part 1 and Part 2, and now Part 3. Jetsons Life. You guys are no longer on my TV provider? What do you mean, Ben Espinosa? Wait, is that Ben? Like the guy that I do jujitsu with? Let's see. ER with the brick up his nose. Yeah. Then the lights flashing would come in real handy. Okay, I think the rest of the show is on tape with Cortina stuff, Milan Cortina stuff. There might be some restrictions, so I don't think you're going to be able to see it here. But guess what? We're going to be here tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day after that. We've got some amazing stories. I got to say, this morning I went to a secret place in Los Angeles at a company that is doing some very interesting, earth-shattering stuff. So I can't wait to put that story together. We're going to be working on that, and then we've got a couple more shoots this week. So we've got some fun stuff in store, and this guy is swarming the chat. What? Huh? Who? Me? This is the chat. I used AI weirdly unprompted. Ew, that's creepy. Okay, we'll see you guys here tomorrow. Same time every day, 5 o'clock West Coast, 8 o'clock Eastern. Stay tuned, as they say. Okay, that was lame. Bye.